Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. This is your Wales versus England post-match reaction. I don't think it's going to be a long show, I've got to be honest. Football has ruined my week this week, I've got to say, and I'm sure Aaron feels the same. First, we had Cardiff City not turning up against Newport, and then we had whatever that was. But more worrying is the past three games for Wales have been very, very problematic in selection, tactics, particularly in the midfield area. We're going to dig into all of it in the next sort of 20 minutes, half hour or so. But I am, as ever, joined by Mr. Aaron Anderson. How are you, mate? You okay?
I would love to say I'm living the dream, but I feel deflated and flat, to be fair. I just think, what we're going to go into just sums up my day.
It's been a nightmare this week, haven't it? Let's be honest. It's been an absolute nightmare. I think the easiest place to start is, right, the first couple of games which Craig Bellamy managed for Wales were very good. And the reason I think people thought it was quite refreshing is he played a different system against different opponents. So, like, if you're away from home and it was a tricky game, he went with a 3 or like a more secure sort of 4-2-1, 4-2-3-1. And then at home, he would, or in against the team when he wanted to be a bit more aggressive, he would play like a 4-3-3, but the 2 8s were effectively 10s. And it worked quite well for him because it was tailored to the opposition. And what has slipped in these last few games is he's playing that attacking 4-3-3, which, all right, I don't mind that old school 4-3-3 shape if you've got the right personnel in there. But he's playing, and look, people, particularly Swansea fans, will think this is a Swansea thing. It's really not. Like, there's a Swansea player in the Wales squad who I really rate. But Liam Cullen offers nothing on the ball, doesn't want the ball, doesn't offer much defensively or offensively. He just seems to run around a lot. And to me, like at international level, you've got to have more than that. And if you're, I mentioned briefly in the video, which I did earlier, right? This isn't a case of me saying Joel Colwell should start. But Liam Cullen and Joel Colwell off the ball are very similar. They do a lot of pressing, a lot of work. They run up and down, etc. The difference is Joel Colwell's a really good footballer as well. He's got good passing. He's good in duels, and he also can carry the ball. Now, I don't even think that Joel Colwell should be starting. I'm just pointing out that you have a player who does the same thing as Liam Cullen, but he's better on the ball, which takes the pressure off the midfield. Now, how Jordan James and Ethan Ampadu are not the pivot in this Welsh midfield is beyond me, because I think they're a really good pivot that contribute to themselves to contribute to what's the word? I can't get my words out. That they complement each other. But I said it against Kazakhstan. The only reason that we were able to get the ball to Harry Wilson was Dylan Lawler. We did not have Dylan Lawler today, and we couldn't get the ball to Harry Wilson in the areas where he could do some bits. But Ethan Ampadu was up against Declan Rice, Anderson, and Morgan Rogers, all Premier League proven, very, very good footballers on his own. And it's just like, I cannot understand tactically why or what he thought was going to happen, like going into this game. Now, admittedly, the first two goals come from diabolical, childlike defending from a set piece, but we got carved open time and time again because Ethan Ampadu's up against 3 players constantly. But anyway, that's my first little rant, mate. What do you make of that?
It's just uninspiring, I think, but it goes, well before the first the first ball's kicked. It's the team selection. It's players being selected not on form. It's players being selected that haven't really put many minutes in the club, and it's players being selected that are not even in the right spots. Really, it must be really uninspiring, And Craig Bellamy's not a bad manager. He's proven that in his sort of early days, but something's not right at the moment, and I think that Wales needs to, he needs to get sort of back to the drawing board. He has got a pool of young players and talent that's there, ready to come through. It's just these are the sort of games where you need to blood that. You really need to see that, what they can do. But selecting people like Cohen, you sort of just have said, it's bonkers. It's how many games can we keep going by allowing passengers like that, especially against a team of the quality of England? It just doesn't make sense.
I'd understand, so against Kazakhstan, I almost excused it because we didn't really have players to play there. You could have put Joel Colwell in there, but it would have been his debut. It would have been a big ask, etc. So I kind of understood that, like against Kazakhstan. But having watched the Kazakhstan game and watched Kazakhstan carve us up time and time and time again, and we, a better team would have absolutely smashed us to pieces in that game, but they just luckily they couldn't finish. We had a good defense and keeper and the rest of it. I can't imagine watching that and then going, yeah, I'm gonna go with the same sort of shape and everything in this game against a much better team without the centre back who's giving you the sort of ball playing, which is fine. I understand why Dylan didn't start, but you've already lost that tool, and then it just doesn't make any sense to me, mate. And from what I know, admittedly, I haven't watched a lot of Swansea this year. I don't think Liam Cullen's doing very well for Swansea. So Craig kind of contradicts himself a little bit, and he says, he's going to pick on form, he's going to pick the players that suit the system and stuff, and then ignores players that are playing and do suit the system. And it becomes a bit frustrating, I think, to watch. Jordan James is playing regular football as a number 8 for Leicester. So even if you're saying, right, Joel Cole was in League One, he's only had one appearance for Wales, so you don't want to pick him. I understand that, completely. Get Jordan James in there and have a bit of stability. Him and Ampadu are both good on the ball, both physical, both able to get about, and then leave Harry Wilson in the 10. That's fine. But it's just a problem. And the midfield has been a big problem in the last 3 games. Against Canada, we got carved open time and time again. And we've got a game on Tuesday, which we have to try and find a way to win. And it's not very encouraging to put in a performance like that. And, second half was better, but England didn't get out of first gear in the second half. They didn't even try, really. Every now and again, they try a couple of little one-touch passing. Are you concerned about the Belgian game, mate?
Reality of form and performances don't lie, don't they? I think the only thing we've got going for us against Belgium is that we tend to be this little bit of a voodoo team, don't we? To be fair, but no, it just concerns me. But you just got to hope that Craig is learning, from his mistakes. But there's got to be some drastic changes, not just in who he selects, but also the way he's setting up at the minute. Because against Belgium, you do that, and it'd be scary to think what the result would be, wouldn't it? And we need a change now. We need a change in just giving a bit of a fresh direction with the fans. With Craig is the guy for the role, but just offering us a little bit something different. He has got the players there in the squad, but just utilize them differently. Have a plan B. Give something else a go for a change.
One of the few positives from tonight, I thought Lewis Kumas looked quite sharp. Yeah. That's about it. Ethan Ampadu, more minutes in the legs, I guess. Rodon was good. Outside of that, it was pretty poor, and I think that's the disappointing thing, right? Is I get it's a friendly, no one really cares, and I'm going to get on to the bit about why we played this game, because that is an absolute disgrace. But we'll leave that for a minute. In terms of, it's a friendly, right? Yeah, I get it. It doesn't matter. But it's your closest rival in international level. You don't play them particularly often. If ever there's a game that the players should be up for and intense and smashing into people and just putting yourself about, it's this game. I get it's a friendly, but it matters to the fans. Just like on Tuesday, I get that it was the EFL Trophy, but it matters to the fans because you're playing Newport.
A game
And
against
then
England should be a friendly, should it?
it's never. And look, I don't think England got out of second gear the whole game, really, because they scored from 2 set pieces. I'm not quite sure why Nico Williams is trying to back heel it on the line instead of just throwing his left foot through it. But, it's easy to say that when it's slow motion. It's a bit more tricky when you're 6 inches from your own goal and it's fast. So I wouldn't put too much blame on him, but it was a puzzling sort of split-second decision. But set pieces, mate, it's so basic, isn't it? And I think that's frustrating. Is I'm sure the instruction to a certain degree was keep it tight for 10 minutes, quieten the crowd, blah, blah, blah. All the, the usual cliches from an away performance or a derby performance. And to concede after 2 minutes so easily, it was so simple, wasn't it, for England? They just took a corner, went to the back post, and just passed it. And nobody moved, no one reacted, no one threw their body in front of it. It was all a bit, I don't know. It was all a bit just diabolical. I got to be honest. I thought it was horrific to watch. And it felt like a bit of a slap in the face. That's
the thing.
Go on.
So I was saying that's the thing with friendlies, isn't it? It's a time of learning. Try and do new things, blooding new players, and showing what you've got. I think we've come off the pitch showing what we haven't got. We haven't tried anything new, and we haven't really blooded many new players. So I'm not sure what we've really taken away from that, to be fair.
Yeah, I speculated on the video I did earlier. What will he do? Will he go strong with basically his first team for the first half just to get him ready for Belgium? Or will he mix it up and have a look at some of these players? De Silva, I thought did okay, but I don't think he's great. I wondered whether he might have a look at De Silva and Capaccio and Lawler and a few others, Kumas, people like this, just to see, can they offer something against Belgium that we haven't seen? The service to Kiefer Moore is dreadful, but Kiefer Moore also, not known for his pressing and his hard working and stuff. He did all right, but I think Wales always look better with a more mobile centre forwards. Whether that's even though Mark Harris, I think, is probably not up to the level that we're looking for, in international level. I think whenever he's played through the middle, we've done all right. He presses and he makes himself busy, and he's a bit of a pest. But the centre forward position is an issue, I think, for Wales at the moment, because after Kiefer Moore, you look at it and you're like, right, well, Broadhead, is he tearing it up for Wrexham? He's all right. It's problem, isn't it? And I find it difficult, mate, because I'm a big Bellamy fan. I think he talks a lot of sense. I like the way he views representing Wales and stuff like that it's a privilege and you should be proud of it, and every game should be intense and stuff. But I'm worried by not just tonight, but the last few games have been difficult to watch because you can see the clear issues and they're kind of self-created. He's not forced to play one in midfield effectively, and I just think at international level you get found out quick because teams just overload you all over the pitch, and if you haven't got the players, that system. So, as you will know, mate, because you used to play football yourself, is that system with sort of 2 very attacking number 8s. It can be very effective, but your number 8s have to be 1, hardworking, but 2, they have to be very technically proficient to receive the ball under pressure and be able to pop it off 1 or 2 touches under pressure and have someone on their back almost as they're moving the ball. Harry Wilson obviously can do that. The other side, Cullen, he can't. But also Cullen, in his defence, is not a midfielder. So you're asking him a lot of the time today when we were defending out of possession, Cullen was alongside Ampadu. That's not his role. He doesn't understand that role. He doesn't know how to, to play that role to a high level. And like, I'm all for people playing different positions and stuff, but I don't think there's any excuse for it when you've got players on the bench who do play that role and play it very well. So, yeah, I find it difficult. Like, I'm trying not to be, and this is why I don't do these post-match shows, isn't it? But I'm trying not to be like overly critical. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried, mate. What do you think of that system? Like, do you think it's too attacking generally, or do you think they've got the personnel to play it?
I do think that there is the personnel within that squad to give it a good crack, but I think it's about finding the right balance, isn't it? And the right combinations, and that's the thing. We still also got to take into consideration Bellamy is a very new manager in reality, isn't he? And he's got a lot of players that sort of haven't got the abundances of caps that we expect, in international football. So there is a fine line about it, but I just think we need that sort of second option. We just need something slightly different to be able to, when you're under that pressure or you're looking to change a game, that against especially some of these better teams, you've got to be able to sit in sometimes. Mm. Like you said yourself, that formation doesn't allow that.
No, it doesn't. And I get it. Like, some people don't like him, don't think he's up to it, and they're going to be the first ones to kind of jump on it. But I've been very impressed with him in certain aspects early on in his reign as Welsh manager. But there's been some questions coming up about his stubbornness. And I know some people will think that I'm referring to Ruben there. I'm not. That's not where I started to worry. I actually started to worry when it was like, Liam Cullen's got to play. Liam Cullen, and he always plays. Like, that's an issue for me because, one, I don't think he's good enough. And two, or more importantly, I think there's better players available in the squad. And that is a worry for me, because when a manager starts to go down that, any manager, not just in this instance, you could look all across the country in the UK and Europe of managers who end up losing their jobs. And I'm not saying that that's what should happen or could happen. I'm saying long term, managers live and die by their selections. And when a manager starts being so single-mindedly selecting underperforming players because they're a favourite or they like him or whatever, that is usually when things start to go wrong collectively. And I hope that's not the case, because I like a lot of what he does and I like a lot of what he stands for. But there's clear issues and he's got to address them. And he's got to address them quick now, because, what is it, Tuesday, the Belgium game? That's going to be, rest day tomorrow. They got the weekend and then they're back in. Just before I let you respond to that, mate, a couple of people saying, did Liam Cullen actually touch the ball? Yeah, he touched the ball in the second half and nearly cost us a goal, where he tried to lay it back to a defender, which wasn't there. But apart from that, look, it's not all his fault, by the way. I feel for him in a way, because he's been asked to play a role that he's not. He is a number 10 or a striker, and he's been asked to play as a almost sort of hybrid number 6 stroke number 8. But what do you make of what I said about stubbornness, mate, and like managers generally, when they start to get a bit stubborn with favourites and stuff, it can cause an issue within the group?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is the potential for that, when managers select players who are being selected on maybe name or reputation as opposed to ability or where they're at. The sort of question you would be looking at is why Cullen, and obviously there's a couple of other players that are selected which would raise eyebrows irrelevant of how well you're playing. That sort of stems back to the Colwell situation. But it's easy enough when you're winning, isn't it? But when you're losing, you're under the spotlight. I think Craig Bellamy has a reputation. I think he's a great guy, and I think he's going to be a very good manager. But it's easy enough during this situation to say, is it stubbornness or is it just naivety? I don't know the answer to that. I just know that he needs to try something different, because his character is he comes out fighting, and
Yeah.
He's a winner. But we need to see that with his selections. We need to see that actually, I'm going to make a change for the better of the team and for the better of the country, And if he does that, you know what? You got the fans on side, irrelevant of results. But it's when you're persistently picking the same mold, and the fans have, we're not managers, we're not coaches, but we have opinions, and it's easy to say. But when we're seeing it, and it's so evidently obvious, something needs to happen.
Yeah.
He's got a coaching team for a reason,
I mean, regardless of personnel tonight, I thought the system was naive to go up against that midfield that England have and think that you could play that open and that attacking after you've been cut. And I say this off the back of the Kazakhstan game and the Canada game, after getting carved open by those two teams who are far, far inferior to the English in terms of depth and quality. To then go to Wembley and go with that sort of open midfield that's got to be naivety, mate. It's worrying. I did say that people would assume that I'm critical of Cullen because he's a Jack. I'm not. It's nothing to do with the fact. Like, as far as I'm concerned, when they play for Wales, they're Welsh, and I'm fully behind them. My worry and my problem with him specifically is I don't think he's good enough. I think he causes a problem within the system, but more so, I'm more concerned with the level of performance from the team in the last 3 games, going into one of these biggest games for a very long time. Like, we have to get something out of that Belgium game to qualify. And the way we're playing, we look disjointed. We're not creating real chances. We had 1 or 2, Jordan Pickford saves, but we just don't look anywhere like the same team that we were early in his reign, where we're moving the ball quickly and we're pressing and we're on the front foot and we're trying to create overloads ourselves. We just look very lethargic and slow. The press is disjointed. The positions, everyone's too far away from each other, out of possession. And it's just worrying all around, if I'm honest. Do you agree with me, by the way, with what I said, about the players are too far away, the press is disjointed, the system's too open against a real quality team? Do you think differently? I'm interested.
No, I absolutely agree. You're playing a team that's probably the top 5 of the world, definitely top 10. And
they're fourth, I think, ranked in the world.
The quality that England have got, and then we're chucking players together from sort of anything from the Premier League down to sort of League 1, League 2, and players that have had 2 or 3 appearances. So there's going to be that, but it's we can't hide from the fact that you're just watching. They're like a bunch of strangers sometimes. It's like they're either not absorbing what the manager's telling them, or they're not sort of getting what the manager's trying to explain. But especially against these better teams, you can be the best of the coaches in the world, and you send your team out, and if they can't do what they're trying, you're asking them to do, you've got major problems. And it looks a bit of that. It just looks like he's got an idea and as Kiefer said, a game plan, but we didn't really see it, did we? What was that? And what worries me is that at moments like that, it's you've got to have some sort of quality where someone can just sort of get you out a bit of pressure or relieve something, and we haven't got that anymore. We don't have a Gareth Bale, a Ramsey, to be able to light up that sort of thing, and it's very evident, and it catches us on our flaws now.
We don't even seem to be able to keep the ball in that shape. We don't even just be able to keep the ball for 5 minutes to take the sting out of it. So England have scored after 2 minutes. Just keep the ball for a little bit, and then go back to the original game plan because it's so early in the game. But we don't even seem to be able to do that. We end up sort of knocking it about a little bit and then kicking it up to keep for more. And those balls were quite poor. But look, it's a friendly. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. What do you think, from a positive point of view, Craig Bellamy and his coaches could take from that game and go, that was good, or they were good, or he was good, and then, take that into the Belgium game? I have a few things. I think Nico Williams is better on the left. I've said that for a couple of weeks. I think Jordan James has to play. And there's, the midfield has got to be midfield, but I'm interested in if you think there's any positives to take from it.
I think the first positive, it was only 3-0.
Yeah, I think yeah.
But after that, I think another positive, it shows that midfield can't work together. But there were, people like Roden have been quite poor in the past couple of games. Actually stepped up. It clearly shows that certain players have got. You've spoken about James, Capaccio come on and look busy. De Silva still, blooding himself into international football. But these are all young people, so that it's an education. It's a learning curve. It's about tasting defeat and not wanting to be in there again. So I can't help but feel like Craig's set up the way he's going to set up against Belgium.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be the same starting 11.
I think that's what's happened in this game, and he's going to try and iron out those issues over the weekend and early next week. I think that's what evidently happened here. But it just raises.
Let me ask you a question on that then. Let's assume that the starting 11 that started today is the starting 11 that starts against Belgium. Give me one word to describe that.
Terrifying.
That's the exact word I was going to use. Like, it's terrifying. Belgium will absolutely take us apart, and because it's a competitive game, they won't stay in second gear. They will, they will try and kill the game off. Especially after in the first game they were 3-0 up, and we got it back to 3-3. So they will, they will look to get 4, 5, 6. So that's worrying.
What I'm really hoping for and what I'm looking for is that Welsh passion and fight. In the previous managers, we've always had that. We've managed to get and that sort of togetherness. And past couple of games, I haven't really seen it.
No. And I don't. So let me ask you a question about togetherness, mate. Just quickly, sorry, just thought of this. Sorba Thomas came back into the Wales fold under Craig Bellamy. To some people's surprise, has not let us down once under Craig Bellamy. He's been excellent, really, really good under Craig Bellamy. Decent form from what I know in the league this year. Been left out, supposedly due to form and performances. Do you think, you've been in dressing rooms, I've been in dressing rooms, does something like that have a negative influence on the dressing room collectively when you see a player who's contributed and played to, contributed to such a level under Craig Bellamy to be left out in a big, for a big sort of couple of games?
Absolutely. And you've also got to remember, Sorba Thomas has played in the previous managers as well. And there's a core group of players that have been there and thereabouts. And when you start losing that sort of, I wouldn't say he was a key player, but he was definitely a squad player that came on, gave everything, always had a smile on his face, and was probably an integral part of the group. And when you start pulling apart a squad, or dropping them for certain reasons, it's definitely going to have a detrimental effect to the group.
His stats in the championship, just quickly: 9 matches, 3 goals, 4 assists he's had this season.
And the facts don't lie, do they?
No. And he's been excellent under Craig Bellamy for Wales, so that's a bit of a weird one. I don't know if he's got a knock. I'm just trying to find out if he's got some sort of injury. Maybe that's the case, but that's really, it's worrying. And then when you add in, the reluctance to select Ruben Colwell in the squad, it becomes a bit of an issue, doesn't it? To finish up this evening, mate, I really wanted to focus on 2 things. I wanted to discuss, first of all, the fact that this fixture was played. I thought it was outrageous. And I know people will be like, well, what are you on about? Because Wales lost this, and we lost it heavily, it can severely affect our seeding for the next qualification. So we could end up in a group with Holland and Germany. What do you make of that, mate? I just need to answer the door.
The honest answer is I'm not sure where they played it. I think that, whether there was some sort of financial element or there was some sort of celebration behind it, I just think that it was, I don't know, I just don't see the logic in it. The only thing I can think of was maybe they were trying to play a class opponent to sort of get them in shape and play a certain shape ready for the Belgian game. That's the only element I can think of it. But like you've just said, from the seeding, etc., it's crazy. What you'd want to play is a a lesser for a worse word team where you can get a few goals. You build a bit of a system, get a few players in, you don't take any knocks. You can make changes on 70 minutes so people are fresh. That's what should have happened. Instead, you go and play a rival in a friendly, which would never happen. You get your ass handed to you. Players are now going to be shot down of confidence. The manager's going to be probably ridiculed on social media and the press for how he selected and how he set up, and he's going to be defending that now for the next couple of days. I don't get the logic now.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? And I think, like, for the first time now, from a performance point of view, I think Craig Bellamy is under a little bit of pressure, more pressure than he's been under. It's all been sweetness and light under him. Obviously, he was unbeaten for such a long time. After 3 poor performances on the back of the Belgium loss, questions are rightly going to be asked. Now, you could say in the Kazakhstan game, we had players out. It's away from home. It's tough. Yes, with the performance wasn't there, but we did get 3 points. So you just find a way to win when you got players out. So I get it. I think it's just one of those, isn't it? Like, so people will laugh at this. I think when I look back, I watched the Kazakhstan game yesterday because I'm researching a video on some players, and I look at the way Wales performed today and their inability to progress the ball through the thirds. I think they already miss Dylan Lawler. He's only played 1 game for Wales, but they miss having, all right, maybe not Dylan Lawler, but they miss having a centre-back who can progress the play, who can bring the ball into midfield and genuinely break lines. I don't think people quite understand sometimes how much of a difference that makes to a team that wants to zip the ball around and wants to keep possession. Like, and this is the other side of it for me, is he doesn't have to play that formation that he's been playing, the 4-1-4, I suppose it is, isn't it? It's like a 4-1-4-1. But if he went to the 3 at the back, which is the one that he was using away from home at the start of his tenure, you could have had Dylan in there with Ben Davies and Joe Rodon. You could have had Sorba Thomas, or you would have been able to if you'd selected him, but you could have had, Nico on one side, you could have had Kipakia, or you could have had De Silva. So you could have had a similar shape, but you'd have had a solid base to build on and maybe be able to retain possession a little bit more. I'm just concerned, not by anything, tactics are tactics, and I like looking into tactics. I am concerned by the tactics, but I'm more concerned with the performance because we look so flat. And we, like you rightly said earlier, we do not have a Gareth Bale or an Aaron Ramsey anymore who can just do something special when we're not at it and win us a game 1-0 or 2-1 or get us a late equaliser. Like, we haven't got that anymore. So we need to collectively be at it every game. And I think you were right in what you said, that it doesn't, the togetherness just seems to have, I don't know what the word is, like slipped a little bit in those performances. And so the togetherness has slipped a little bit and the performances have dropped at the same time. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah, I think, players are not stupid, are they? As a coaching team, I think they see, they hear, they know what's going on. And they probably have the same sort of opinions, but they're not paid, but they're representing the country and told to do a job. But you can just tell by the body language that some of it is a bit like questions.
Do you think, and I don't want to turn this to Ruben, because Ruben was never going to play today, let's be honest, for whatever reason. He was never going to get a minute today. I think we all know that. But as a squad, right, these players, they all talk to each other. They're all mates, or they're to a certain or lesser degree. Do you think that within the group, they are questioning the manager? Why isn't Sorba Thomas in the group? Why isn't Ruben Colwell in the group when he's so talented? Is someone off the bench? X, Y, and Z, whoever it may be. Like, why isn't X in the group when it feels like maybe it's a bit more of a like a contradiction to what he says publicly about form and about application and about player ID. It doesn't always match up with what he then, like, actions speak louder than words. So he might say one thing, but it's what he does that people pay attention to. Does that make sense?
I absolutely agree. I think, when you've got those players sat around breakfast and they're all talking about, how they're doing at their clubs, and you've got certain players saying, I've had so many subs appearances or I've not even got any minutes, and then, Dylan's maybe talking about what Ruben's done the past couple of weeks, and that, it gets around the sort of camp, and they're not stupid. They watch each other's games, it's like social media, they share videos, etc. And they'll be raising eyebrows, won't they? And, what I would say on it is if that's what Craig is saying to the media, and he's also portraying that to the squad and his expectations of what he and his demands of the team, and if they're not seeing that and players don't feel it, that's where you have your problems. I don't think that, they're not playing for him, and I don't think they're not supporting him. But sometimes it's easy enough, and, you subconsciously, you start to question what the manager's doing or what he's trying to implement. Because you're not feeling it through the representation or how he's portraying it in the media. And I think there is evidence for that, that selections alone say that.
I think most importantly, no, I agree. I agree with that, mate. And I think as well is, I always say press conferences mean absolutely fuck all, right? Because the manager can say whatever he wants. It doesn't really matter. But what he says to the players has to match his actions. So if the message is the same to the players about attitude, application, form for your club, playing games regularly for your club, player ID, you've got to fit the way he wants to play, etc. Like, if that's the message to the players, the selection process and the tactics and everything has to match what the message is. Because if it doesn't, it becomes very disjointed then, doesn't it? Because, like you say, that's when you get players going, well, hang on, he said this, but he's doing this. Or he said that about me, or he said that about him, but he's not picking him because he's played every game this year and he's doing really well. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a strange thing. But Harry Wilson, for me, is the guy that they should be building the first 11 around. And I think the best way to build around him is to have a solid double pivot, him in the 10, get the ball to him in the pockets, and have pace in the wide areas. Now, obviously, Daniel James is injured, which is a problem. If you were picking the side, what would your 11 be against Belgium from the squad that he has picked? And also, what is your prediction for the score as well?
You've got to try something different. I think the back four was, back five, I should say, was pretty solid. It's the best of what you've got. It's that double pivot area, it's that midfield area. That's the issue in it. Cullen needs to be pulled out. He's not offering. As we've already discussed, why. It's what you put in there. Do you go a bit of legs of Joel and give that sort of youth freshness, a bit of the unknown, something different? As mad as bonkers as it sounds, why not give Ruben a go there? A player that can actually, of size, of stature, that can actually pick up the ball on the turn and create that transition that Wales haven't got at the moment. Carry that ball and sort of beat the midfield press. He's a big guy, and his stats say this year he's done a lot of running. His legs, he's there and thereabouts. He can get a goal. And then I think Brendan Johnson he's the other one. He's a bit of an enigma at the minute, and he's not doing what he's doing at Tottenham there. But it's just that middle three for me. I'm happy with the rest of the team. They've got a point to prove, but that middle three needs to be sort of reflected and changed.
Yeah, I think I agree. I kind of had a bit of a stand. I don't know what the word is. Like a bit of a standstill in many ways in terms of who I would pick. Because I see a lot of benefits to put in, a Joel or a Ruben in there, because I think Belgium would know little to nothing about them. And I think they've got very unique skill sets, both of them individually, both of them very different. But I also think that the first two games on the team sheet should be in the midfield at least, Jordan James and Ethan Ampadu. So it's
Absolutely.
like that's. I would, and the other thing I would look at is Isaac Davis potentially, like maybe not off, from the start, but off the bench. I think he offers something different, and I think he offers something a bit better than, maybe this is a bit of Cardiff bias, but I think he's better than, better than Broadhead. I think he's better than maybe not Broadhead, but I think he's better than Cullen. I think he's better than Mark Harris. When he's fit and he's firing, which he is at the moment. I also, and again, like it's a difficult one, but I would play 3 at the back against Belgium, me personally, and I would get Dylan Lawler in there because of his ball playing ability. I think I'm unfroze now, but
yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, that's good. So let me know in the comments what your starting 11 would be for the Belgium game, because I am really interested by it, but it's a tricky one, because I always wonder whether it's like, is it just because I want the Cardiff boys in it? I actually would like the Cardiff boys not to play any minutes at all.
My question to you is: do you think he makes any changes from today?
I said after the Kazakhstan game that there is no way we'll go in with that same shape, stroke personnel in the midfield against England and Belgium, because we will get torn apart. But we did. That indicates to me that is his preferred shape, and his preferred personnel is Ampadu as the holder, Liam Cullen, and Harry Wilson being the star man. So I am not expecting any massive changes come. I'm really not. I think, maybe changes in the wide areas possibly, but I'm not expecting much, mate. I got to say, I think it'll be similar 11.
And that's what scares me.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think, like, I don't like being negative. I just think, like, you just don't want to be like that guy who's like negative and moaning. But I will always give an honest opinion. And my honest opinion is Wales have been really poor for the last 3 games, and I think a lot of it tracks back to the manager and the tactics that he's attempting to play. Now, so here's an interesting question then. Is it that he's not getting his message across to the players, so they don't understand it, and then it's not clicking? Or is it that the players that we have or that he's selecting aren't capable of doing what he wants?
I definitely think it's the latter. I think it's, he's got such high expectations of certain shape. He has been schooled under some great coaches and some great philosophies.
Absolutely.
And, we are sort of asking players of, when we talk about international standard, we are talking about players that have not had many appearances, many minutes, or even a higher standard of the league. So there is that element of it, and also age. But, you've got to, the reality is you've got to get the best out of the players you've got, irrelevant to what shape it is. International football is slightly different. But if that's the best players that Wales have to offer, how do you get the best out of them to be able to get us to qualify for some of, those championships? And Wales have been very good with the togetherness, with that sort of building, that sort of team spirit, having, a player, there's nothing stopping a Harry Wilson being our sort of starlet and build, like you said, build that team around it. But you also need that dynamic. And that's the bit I don't sort of see at the minute. Like, Craig's a great guy, but has he got that sort of, that aura that, a Coleman or a Speed would have, to inspire the players sort of emotionally as opposed to through coaching?
Interesting. So all right, let me flip that question a bit further then. So if we're saying that maybe some of the players are not capable of playing the way that he wants to, do you think in the current Welsh squad that he's named, there is 11 players that you could put together which would give you the right balance and combination to play the way he wants to?
There is, but you're talking about players that are probably not at caps. You're probably talking about players that have probably not made enough appearances for their club. You are literally probably almost pulling the Welsh team apart. The midfield pretty much goes. Kiefer to an extent, you're probably taking him out. And you're losing probably ability to be able to play a certain style in a certain way. So you're sacrificing one element of it to try and compensate for another part of it. So it is a very interesting debate, and I'm sure it's something that probably the coaching team discuss as well. It's easier to change shape. It's easier to get the best out of your better players than it is to be sort of stubborn and try and get players to fit your roles. It's not club management.
But then balance is so important. And if he's if he's a manager who's dead set on playing a certain shape and a certain way, then he should be, in my opinion at least, looking at the squad he's got and going, right, this is the way I want to play. Which players fit that system the best and are the best options for each position? And if that means that someone's got to drop out because there's someone on the bench who maybe is marginally not as technically good, but fits the way you want to play more and gives you balance, that's what you've got to do. Now, interestingly, and we'll finish on this, mate, Brian Barry Murphy likes to play and does play an almost identical system, which means that the Cardiff Five, as they're now being referred to, which sounds like a flipping a group that's been locked up in prison, but it would suit the way all five of them would suit the system, wouldn't they? Now, I'm not saying they all should be starting. I'm not, because I think that would be excessive. But I am saying they all fit the system.
And you're absolutely right.
They all give you balance, don't they?
They do. But then you've got the sort of the contrary to that of, maybe dropping a Brennan Johnson who's, playing European football, etc., and top end of Premier League for, Isaac Davis, who's League One, and you get the caveat of that, don't you? You get the other people sort of moaning about that sort of level, and you also have the harmony of the squad. Why what they would deem elite players not selected. So it's a horrible position. You want to be with Craig Bellamy right about now, but ultimately it's a result game, isn't it?
Do you think though that team of players, they all know that, or they all see that there's an issue with the midfield at the moment?
Oh, it's evident. You could see at moments there was players dropping in when they didn't really need to. There was the gap between the Kiefer and the midfield was massive. You could see that's not a coached element. That's players almost bunkering down, trying to protect what they've got. Players, that's not a shape issue. That's mentality. That's pressure. That is, but there's only one way that can be changed. You don't coach that.
Yeah, I I think the 11 will be the 11. Maybe I think he might take Brooks out for someone just because he's got a habit of doing that. But apart from that, I think it'll be the same. It's worrying because I think he's got better options. I think he's got better options. I would argue that you could put David Brooks on the right, put Sorba Thomas on the left, or Isaac Davis on the left, or whoever, and maybe if you're not going to play Brennan Johnson through the middle, then he's got to be on the bench.
Yeah,
he hasn't done it for Wales.
No, I would like to see that sort of that front three behind Kiefer rotate a bit more in games. It's not fluid anymore. It's very rigid, and I've never seen that for Wales for a long time.
Especially because Harry Wilson can play off the wide spaces as well. He plays wide sometimes for Fulham, so there's no reason why they couldn't be fluid and interchanging. And then suddenly they all look a bit more dangerous because they're harder to mark. Wilson, Brooks. There's a lot of different options. There's a few people saying put Wilson wide and put Ruben in the 10. I think Wilson's the guy for Wales at the moment. So ultimately Ruben will have to be patient. But then people forget, like, Ruben's been playing as an 8, really. So doesn't have to play in the 10. But it is what it is. Shout out to the 7,500 Welsh fans who travelled to Wembley. They outsang the English fans, and they deserved a more inspiring. They deserved a more inspiring performance.
It was fun listening to the TV production companies turning up the English national anthem because we were all singing them. I love that.
It was there was a moment in the first half where some fans were singing Keir Starmer's a wanker, and Sam Matterface went, "Oh, I wonder where they've learned that," which I thought was quite funny. But it is what it is, a bit of fun. But yeah, shout out to the Welsh fans. They did not stop singing despite being 3-0 down to their rivals and a not great performance. But look, we've said it multiple times tonight and over the last couple of weeks when discussing like Ruben and stuff. Managers live and die by their selections. If Craig Bellamy is to qualify and be a success as Welsh manager, he will do so on his selections, both in the squad and in the 11s. I would like to see him just adjust a little bit and go back to what he did in the opening sort of 4 or 5 games that he was the manager. I thought he was excellent in those opening games. Tactically, I thought he was very good, but we just look a bit one-dimensional at the moment. Hopefully it's better against Belgium, mate, but we shall see. I'll be back tomorrow night with Harry and Rob, so for the Cymru and Beirdd podcast, so I'm looking forward to. Although Harry's very ill at the moment, so he might not be. He might be me and Rob, but we'll see. Harry's planning to come on at least. 1927 Club will be back on Saturday. I very much doubt there will be 5 things in the lunchtime tomorrow, just because I'm not sure I could think of 5 things from that game today. But I'll put something out. I'm working on a couple of Bluebirds Rewind videos. There's one particular Bluebirds Rewind video that might feature a ex-Cardiff City player or two. Got one on Ninian Park and some others. Got some other videos in the works, so keep a lookout for them. I'll be back in the morning with Cuppa, and we'll have a little. So in the morning, mate, I don't know if you've seen, I've been doing like a video in the morning, which is called Cup of Tea with Si. And basically, I just have a cuppa and have a chat to the people, have a little check-in, see how people are doing, talk about my own health and mental health and what I'm doing that week. And obviously, I was talking about the Neville Southall thing, which I found out about this morning. I haven't told people what I'm doing on Tuesday, other than I'm doing something exciting. Obviously, we've got the Sean Morrison thing coming up as well. So there's lots and lots of stuff going on at the moment behind the scenes. So, we just have like a little check-in in the morning, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, cup of tea and a little chat. It's all good, mate. But what are you up to? What's your plans for the weekend, mate, with no Cardiff?
Kids got sports, so dad duties. I'm probably just catching up, family time. It's been a bit busy week, as you would know, behind the scenes. So I think I've got invest a bit of time in the family this weekend.
Yeah, it's like make up for all the time I spend away from them, basically. Either watching football or talking about football. My son's got a football match on Sunday, but Saturday is free, so spend a bit of time with the wife. I feel like I haven't seen my wife for about fucking 3 weeks, but we live in the same house, so we'll have to adjust that, mate. But there we go. Right. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. Gone far longer than I was planning to, but it's like once we start talking, especially me, can't stop talking. And keep an eye on the channel. Please do spread the word. If you'd like to become a member, become a member. Subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed. Get some likes on the video as well, as Graham rightly says. It all helps with the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment on the video after as well. Aaron, as always, mate, a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, bud. You take care.
Indeed. I'll speak to you tomorrow, no doubt. And you have a pleasant evening.
Good night, everyone.
Oh, football's been so shit this week. This channel is powered by an incredible membership community on Cardiff City World and patreon.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Becoming a member unlocks exclusive rewards from early access to live event tickets, bonus content, and even the occasional inside transfer scoop when we get it. But more importantly, it allows us to bring you top quality Cardiff City content 7 days a week. Across those 7 days, we're talking match previews, exclusive interviews, instant match reactions, the breakdown podcast, tactical deep dives, the Spotlight series, Bluebirds Rewind, Academy Focus, and just so much more. Led by myself, backed by an army of passionate Cardiff City fans, this is content created by fans for fans, balanced, professional, and 100% all about the club we all love. If you enjoy what we do, then join the community today and support what we are doing as we help to keep Cardiff City World flying high.